When was the last time you picked up your morning coffee, closed your eyes, took a deep breath, and really, truly experienced that rich, complex aroma? I'm not asking if you could smell something. I'm asking if you felt that sharp, distinct, identifying hit of roasted beans. We spend so much of our midlife terrified of the big memory slips. We worry about losing our car keys or walking into a room and forgetting why we're there. We think that's how the decline begins. But the science tells us we are looking in the wrong place. The silent thief that steals your cognitive future doesn't start with forgetfulness. It starts right here with your nose. You might want to brush this off as normal aging or maybe just a lingering sinus issue. But I need you to listen very closely because this is not a trivial symptom. This is the single loudest, earliest warning bell for what medical researchers are now calling type 3 diabetes, what you know as Alzheimer's disease. The data is absolutely chilling. Research indicates that individuals who exhibit a specific type of decline in their sense of smell have a risk of cognitive decline that is 6.62 times higher than the average person. That is nearly a 7-fold increase. Think of your nose as the sentry, the solitary guard standing at the front gates of your brain's fortress. It is the first line of defense. When that guard stops doing its job, or worse, dies off, it is a signal that the defense system inside is already collapsing. But here is the critical distinction that most people, and even some clinicians, miss. The danger sign isn't necessarily total smell loss, known as anosmia, where the world goes completely scent neutral. It is a loss of identification. It's a processing error. It's when you know there is a scent in the air, but you cannot name it. You can't distinguish a lemon from a lime. You smell smoke, but you can't tell if it's a cigarette, a campfire, or burning rubber. The signal is getting in, but the processor is broken. When the software in your brain loses the ability to name the file, that is the first definitive sign that the hardware is starting to fail. So, what is actually happening inside your head to cause this short circuit? To understand this, we have to decode a concept called cerebral insulin resistance. Now, you've likely heard of insulin resistance in the body. That's type 2 diabetes. But this is happening specifically in the brain. Here is the fascinating biological connection. Your olfactory bulb, that little structure above your nose responsible for processing smell, has the highest density of insulin receptors in the entire human brain. It is packed with them. When you spend years eating a diet high in refined carbohydrates and sugar, you are constantly flooding your system with insulin. Eventually, just like a neighbor who stops answering the door because you knock too loudly and too often, your brain cells turn off these receptors to protect themselves. They become resistant. When that happens, those cells can no longer accept energy. They begin to starve, and when they starve, they wither. That loss of smell? It is literally the sound of your olfactory neurons crying out for fuel before they die. To really grasp how this leads to the cobwebs associated with Alzheimer's, I want you to visualize a mechanism I call the distracted janitor. Imagine your brain as a pristine, high-functioning office building. Inside this building, there is a very hard-working janitor named ID. In scientific terms, this is the insulin-degrading enzyme. Now, this janitor has two very specific jobs described in his contract. Job number 1, mop up any water spills in the hallway. This water represents insulin. Job number 2, take out the heavy bags of toxic trash that accumulate in the corners. These trash bags represent amyloid plaques, the sticky proteins that gum up the brain and cause Alzheimer's disease. In a healthy metabolic state, the janitor's day is easy. A little water spills, a normal amount of insulin from a healthy meal. He mops it up quickly, and then he spends the rest of his shift taking out the trash. The building stays dry, and the corridors stay clear. But now, look at the brain of someone with insulin resistance. You have chronically high blood sugar, which means you have chronically high insulin. The building isn't just having a spill, it is flooded. The water is rising to waist height. The janitor, ID, is now in emergency mode. He is frantically bailing water 24/7 just to keep the building from drowning. He is obsessed with the insulin. And because he is spending 100% of his energy on the water, guess what happens to the trash? It gets ignored. The amyloid plaque bags start piling up in the hallways. They stack higher and higher, blocking the doors, clogging the elevators, and stopping information from moving from one department to another. The janitor isn't lazy, he is just distracted by the flood you created with your diet. This explains why we see those sticky plaques in Alzheimer's patients. It's not just bad luck, it's a janitorial failure caused by excess insulin. This is also why you need to be very skeptical of the current trend of brain training games as a cure-all. You see apps and programs promising to sharpen your mind with puzzles and memory tests. But think about the janitor. If your brain is flooding with insulin and your neurons are starving for energy, forcing your brain to play Sudoku is like taking a car with a clogged fuel line and stomping on the gas pedal. You are trying to rev the engine when the engine has no fuel. It doesn't work, and it might even stress the system further. You cannot solve a metabolic problem with a mental puzzle. We have to drain the floodwater first. We have to fix the metabolism. So, how do we fix this? How do we drain the floodwater and get the janitor back to cleaning up the trash? The guiding principle for this action plan is simple. If the front door is locked, use the back door. Since we know the insulin receptors, the front doors to your brain cells, are jammed and refusing to open, we cannot just keep pounding on them with more glucose. We need a fuel source that has a VIP pass, a fuel that can slide right into the brain to feed those starving neurons without needing to knock. That fuel is ketones. Here is your 3-step blueprint to flip the switch. Step 1 is the fuel shift. You are going to bypass the blockage. I want you to start your day with 1 tablespoon of MCT oil. But you have to be specific. Look for C8 or C10 on the label. Unlike other fats that have to go through a long digestive process, this specific type of oil goes straight to your liver and is instantly converted into ketones. These ketones then rush to the brain, bypass the broken insulin receptors, and literally turn the lights back on in those starving olfactory cells. It is like installing a backup generator for a building that has lost power. You will likely feel the brain fog lift within minutes because you are finally feeding the hardware. Step 2 is the neural workout. We are going to physically rehabilitate your sense of smell. You need to perform olfactory training twice a day. This is physical therapy for your nose. You will need 4 specific scents: rose, lemon, clove, and eucalyptus. These are the 4 primaries of the odor spectrum. Morning and night, take each scent and sniff gently for 20 seconds. But here is the secret sauce. Don't just sniff passively. You must close your eyes and visualize the object. See the yellow lemon, feel the texture of the rose petal. This visualization forces your brain to reconnect the wiring. This process actually stimulates neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells, right there in the olfactory bulb. You are literally rebuilding the sensor. Step 3 is the shield. We need to stop the inflammation that is damaging the cell walls. You must be ruthless about this. Eliminate vegetable oils high in omega-6. Throw out the soybean oil, the corn oil, the vegetable oil. These are pro-inflammatory agents that stiffen your cell membranes, making it even harder for signals to get through. Swap them immediately for high-quality omega-3s, specifically DHA found in fatty fish or algae oil. DHA is the structural component of your brain. It replaces those stiff, inflamed cell walls with soft, flexible membranes that allow nutrients in and toxins out. Finally, I want to give you a tool to accelerate this process. Download a simple fasting tracker app, something like Zero, and start practicing intermittent fasting. Why? Because when you are not eating, your insulin levels drop. Remember our janitor ID. When insulin drops, the floodwaters recede. This gives the janitor a break from bailing water, allowing him to finally turn around and start clearing out the amyloid trash. Fasting isn't just about weight loss. It is the scheduled cleaning time for your brain. Now, before we wrap this up, I need to give you a serious reality check regarding some of the viral tests you might see online. You may have heard of the peanut butter test, where you try to smell a scoop of peanut butter with one nostril versus the other to diagnose yourself. Here is the truth: while it is an interesting rough screening tool, it is not a perfect medical diagnosis. Research shows that the left versus right nostril difference isn't consistent for every patient, so do not panic if one side feels weaker than the other one morning. Use it as a data point, not a verdict. Furthermore, before you spiral into anxiety about brain decline, go check your medicine cabinet. You need to rule out the obvious culprits first. Common medications like antibiotics, blood pressure meds, specifically ACE inhibitors, and even statins for cholesterol can cause temporary smell loss. Also, a simple zinc deficiency is a massive common cause of olfactory dysfunction in older adults. If you are low on zinc, your smell disappears. So, talk to your doctor and rule these out before assuming the worst. But let's look at the big picture. I want you to reframe how you see this. Losing your sense of smell is not a death sentence. It is actually a gift. It is a check engine light that flickers on a full decade before the car actually breaks down. Because this symptom appears so early, years before the memory loss sets in, it is giving you the most valuable asset in the world: time. You have a 10-year head start to change your fuel, repair your neurons, and reverse the damage. You are not powerless. You have been given an early warning system. Use it. So here is your challenge for the next 24 hours. I don't want you to just watch this video and do nothing. I want you to go out and buy those 4 essential oils: rose, lemon, clove, and eucalyptus. Commit to that first 2-minute brain gym session. If this information helped you connect the dots, please hit that like button so we can spread this knowledge. And I want to hear from you in the comments below. Be honest. What is the first specific smell that you or a loved one noticed was fading or gone? Was it the smell of coffee? The smell of rain? Or maybe the smell of toast burning? Let's share these signs so we can all learn to spot the pattern early. I'll see you in the next video.